October 7 was the proof there was no longer any safe haven.
As a species, we seem to just do the worst job of learning from history.
Sometimes evil is radical. It is beyond excuse and beyond explanation.
Would it still be called Israel alone?
More than ever. I know the genocide of the past, and I know the genocide of today. I was there, I saw.
Bonjour, bonjour, madame, monsieur, et bienvenue à Being Jewish. That's about as goofy as I suspect we'll get today, but you never know. If you couldn't guess by my elite and convincing accent, my guest today joins us via the internet from France, where he has been a fixture in public life for decades. So much so that he is usually referred to only by his initials. He is one of the world's foremost philosophers and journalists, a wartime documentarian, an author of 48 books, and of course, a loud and proud Jew. From Bosnia to Bangladesh, from Israel to Sudan, he has committed his life to following the outbreak of human tragedy wherever it rages, in order to bear witness, draw attention, and help the rest of us make sense of humanity's darkest and most resilient moments. He is a moral compass, a relentless seeker of truth, and one of the most important public intellectuals of our age. Please welcome BHL himself, Bernard-Henri Lévy. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you so much. Let's get into your most recent book, Israel Alone, which you published last year, 4 months into a war that ended up being 2 years. If you were going to release the book now, 2 years after the start of the war instead of 4 months, would it still be called Israel Alone?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
More than ever. Yeah. I see the UN, I see the campuses in America, I see the public opinion in France, I see the calls for boycott of Israel, not of Netanyahu, of Israel, when you have the Philharmonic Orchestra of Israel that comes to Paris with a maestro who is an anti-Netanyahu, with players who are Jews and non-Jews. And when you see that they are boycotted, that there is some incidents during the performance and so on, it means that Israel as itself is even more alone today than it was 2 years ago.
How do you account for something like, the Iranian missile attacks on Israel, when there was a wonderful coalition of other countries who stood up and, sent military personnel and really spent money and people and great capital to defend Israel?
It's the minimum, honestly. A country, a democratic country, is attacked by a flood of missiles, probably have never been seen in such a short time. Thank God, the world came to rescue. The world does not deserve for that a medal. Such a number of missiles in such a short time between two countries, Iran and Israel, who have no territorial conflict. The minimum was that the US, France, the neighboring Arab countries see that, feel that it is themselves who are threatened behind Israel and help.
In your mind, it was more out of self-interest?
If a few countries of the free world, and if some Arab countries had not reacted, it was a definitive triumph of the law of jungle. It was a definitive blast, breaking of the international law. It was a world disorder at an unprecedented scale.
If you were to write the book now, 2 years after the fact, would there be anything different about it? Stuff that you would want to discuss that you hadn't seen yet, or things that you got wrong, or would it be essentially the same book?
It would be essentially the same book. Obviously, a few things would have been different. I would have added some pieces related to what happened since, but the core of the book, I addressed the liberals and tried to tell them that far from being despised, hated, and attacked, Israel should be praised according to the liberal values themselves. This was the core of the book. It was not just some tears about the loneliness of Israel. It was some tears and the deep sorrow and mourning about the October 7 and the deaths. But after that, the ideological core of the book was to explain, to demonstrate, to recall, to remind that Israel was born out an anti-colonial war. I know by experience what apartheid is. You can say a lot of things about Israel. You can be against the current government, of course, but you cannot say that Israel itself is practicing an apartheid. So
Yeah.
this would not have changed.
Something you got right in the book is your worry that Israel would not be allowed to definitively win the war and that Hamas would be weakened but not defeated, which is essentially what has come to pass and what the situation is today. What do you hope will happen from this point forward? And what do you think will happen?
I hoped for two things when I wrote the book. One thing was the comeback of the hostages. And this for me was a sacred cause. The hostages came back, all the living and most of the dead. But I had a second hope, which was very important too, which was the military defeat of Hamas. Because I know by experience that when you have in front of you a jihadist movement, a jihadist organization, a jihadist army, you cannot compromise. As long as you compromise, they pretend to be resistance. As long as they pretend to be resistance, they have an aura, they have a great reputation, they are popular.
Right.
And the only way to break this popularity is a military defeat. I saw that in Afghanistan in 2001, after September 11. I was there on the ground. I saw how Al-Qaeda, who was at the peak of its glory, at the peak of its popularity, was the balloon did blast because there was a military defeat. I saw that in Mosul in 2016. It was not Al-Qaeda, it was ISIS. ISIS was at the peak of its, again, reputation, influence. It did need a military clear defeat for ISIS to lose a big part of its aura. And for Hamas, alas, it is the same. If we don't want to see, for example, a poll which I saw yesterday about the West Bank and the influence of Hamas, giving horrible numbers of popularity of Hamas on the West Bank. If you don't want to see that, if you want this popularity to be broken, Hamas has to be defeated. Will it happen? Will the allies of Israel allow Israel or help Israel to achieve that target? This I don't know. And I'm not sure that the current administration is feeling the things as I do.
The current Israeli administration?
No, American one.
American
And French. There is this idea now that a sort of compromise can be made with the remnants of Hamas. There is this idea that everybody has to save a face, including the godfathers of Hamas, like Qatar. I'm not against the people saving face, but I am against Hamas having such an influence in Jordan, in the West Bank, in the Western Street, not only the Arab Street. People speak always about the Arab Street. There is also the Western Street, where you have people chanting from the river to the sea, all Palestine will be free and there will no longer be Israel and so on. For them, for the Western Street, Arab Street, and so on, Hamas has to be clearly defeated in a way or in another to admit its defeat, which happened with Al-Qaeda and which happened with ISIS. Again, I was in Mosul when the war against ISIS finished, and it was clear. There was a week, nearly overnight, when the jihadists cut their long beard and opened a hairdresser shop.
Bernard, this brings me to sort of a larger thematic question that it's going to come up throughout this interview, but we just, as a species, as a global society, we seem to just do the worst job of learning from history. You're listing clear examples of very recent history where there is a formula that should be followed. If you want to defeat jihadism, you defeat it, you kill its popularity, people don't want to join it anymore, and it does get weakened. And yet, for some reason, we have this, hubris or ignorance where we ignore it and we think, oh, well, what I'm going to do is going to work instead. What do you think that is about for us as a species, that we almost refuse to look at even the most recent history and learn from its lessons?
There is two things. First of all, history repeats itself. People always say history does not repeat itself. No, it repeats itself. There are some laws of history. There are some chains of events which happen nearly necessarily. Number one. Number two, people are blind to that, don't want to see that for two reasons. Number one, they are ignorant. This is true. I know a lot of people who decide in France and in America who really don't know history. They don't care. They are short-sighted. And number two, you have the people who decide have some difficulties to establish the priorities. In the United States, with all the respect I have for your country, you have some people who are in charge who have two priorities. Number one, I'm sure, protect Israel. But number two, do good deals. The second priority is to do good deals with some countries of the area, including some countries who support Hamas and who have some conditions. So they have to decide.
Something you said in the book, Israel Alone, you said October 7th marks the alignment, for the worse, of Israel with the diaspora. What did you mean by that, and do you still feel that?
In the classical view of things, you had diaspora where Jews were persecuted, and Israel, which was a safe haven for Jews. October 7 was the proof that there was no longer any safe haven. It was the proof that there was no place in the world where the Jews could be safe. And in this sense, there was a sort of diasporization of Israel itself. This is what all the Jews in the world felt when the sanctuary is attacked, burned, when there is a real attempt to destroy it. What does it mean?
Yeah.
In the spirit of the people of my generation, there was the idea that Jews were threatened everywhere and that Israel could rescue them. We had the feeling in the weeks following October 7 that we, diaspora women and men, could have to contribute to rescue Israel itself. So it was a sort of reverse.
In the book, you have a chapter titled Radical Evil, where you essentially call out humanity for this delusion that we've progressed beyond evil, despite the myriad horrors that you yourself have seen up close that human beings are capable of doing to one another. How is it possible that after thousands of years of human beings lying, cheating, stealing, raping, killing each other, we continue this delusion that we're somehow beyond that animalistic instinct?
The surprise is not that we continue. The surprise is that we continue to excuse. Sometimes evil is radical. And when it is radical, it means that it is beyond excuse and beyond explanation. That there is a sort of black array which is splashed by the event and which should and has to block any sort of explanation. You can explain a lot of things. You can excuse a lot of things. But sometimes when you have events which, when you explain them, when you excuse them, you make the possibility, you open the possibility of their comeback. And October 7, there is no excuse. Soon after October 7, I made a tour of American campuses. The worst was people chanting pro-Hamas slogans. Okay, this was the worst. But something equally terrible was students or teachers explaining, saying, it did not come out of a blue sky. It did not come in a void, in an emptiness. Before October 7, there was a long history of misery and of disarray of the Palestinian people. All of that is what happened was rooted in that. This way of thinking was really the beginning of the worst, of the repetition of crime, of the expression of the new anti-Semitism, and so on.
At the end of the book, you conjure the classic biblical image of the golden calf. You portray the Israelites saying, "Make us an idol that will spare us the effort of thinking." About whom are you making that comparison today, and what is their golden calf?
I think a minor part, but a part of the Israeli society itself. You have today in Israel some people, I'm thinking of two ministers, for example, of the government Netanyahu, who really reflect in an un-Jew way. Mr. Smotrich,
Yeah.
Mr. Ben-Gvir, they are thinking in a nationalist way, they are thinking in an extremist way, they are thinking in a racist way, whatever, but it is not Jew. They forgot what being a Jew means. And Israel remains a special country when it can match the two, being a normal country with, of course, with an army, a defense, some self-interest, national interest, and having some special values. If you don't have the two, it's no longer Israel. It will be a Canaan country. It would be another Middle Eastern country. It can be a lot of things. But Israel means to remain faithful to some values which are inscribed in the Jewish books.
You conclude the book, continuing on with this theme, by praying for the preservation of the Jewish soul, essentially, and concluding that it indeed has remained firm. Do you feel still, a year and change after writing this book, that it still remains firm? And what puts it most at risk?
I went to Israel various times since the book was written. I went on Hostage Square a few times. I had the honor to be invited to speak on Hostage Square. I have the feeling of the pulse of the Israeli nation. And for me, the core values which I allude to in this end of the book are still more than ever vibrant and blooming in the Israeli society. And this, by the way, is one of the secular miracles of Israel. This is one of the numerous reasons why I love Israel, is that in spite of the war, in spite of the suffering, in spite of the state of emergency, in spite of everything, Israel continues to stand firm on its feet, heart, and core. And this is not so frequent. I'm speaking from a country in France. We were in a state of war 50 years ago in Algeria. After a few years, we began to suppress some of our liberties, freedoms, and so on, freedom of associations, freedom of press, etc., etc. In America, after September 11, not a few years, a few months after September 11, you had Patriot Act, Patriot Act 1 and then Patriot Act 2. Again, state of war, means sort of state of emergency for the society itself. Israel, what amazes me is that not after a few years, not after a few months, but after 76 years of state of war, honestly, the freedoms, the liberties, the civic rights remain untouched. Even if you have a right-wing government, it doesn't matter. Even the right-wing government never dared. You still have totally free press. You have the right to demonstrate. You have the right to go under the windows of the prime minister to shout and ask for his removal. The rights of the Arab minority in Israel, thank God, have not been are intact. They still are represented, the Knesset, and so on. And this is for me is normal, but it is unprecedented. Again, in France, I can tell you, if you have had at that time Algerian war, some representative of the Arab minority going, I'm not even speaking of the parliament of our Knesset, but in the street, they were strongly punished and once much more by the French police. There is something which is incomparable in Israel, which is nearly miraculous. Whatever you think of a government or another, the pillars of the Israeli society are not affected, are not corrupted by state of war. There was an attempt before the war.
Right, with the judicial reforms.
And it did not work, by the way.
Yeah.
The society of Israel, the youth of Israel, the remaining pioneers of Israel said no.
Imagine owning a fully furnished $1.2 million apartment in Jerusalem. Beautifully designed, move-in ready, and complete with a large porch and sukkah. It's the perfect spot for your next visit to Israel, or even if you've been thinking about making Aliyah one day. That's what the Dream Raffle is all about. A nonprofit fundraiser where every ticket gives you the chance to win that dream apartment and support incredible programs that protect and strengthen Israel. Proceeds help fund programs like the Israel Dog Unit, whose volunteers carry out life-saving search and rescue missions. The raffle has already built Israel's first dedicated rescue center, supplied ATVs and emergency gear, funded a bulletproof ambulance for Sderot after October 7th, and continues to help Israeli farmers affected by terror and the BDS movement. And here's the best part. Every ticket you buy automatically earns you the same number of entries into a $15,000 bonus raffle at no extra cost. Use the code JONAH for double the tickets plus $10 off your order. The bonus raffle ends the last day of Hanukkah, Monday, December 22nd, so don't wait. 7 winners have already made their dreams a reality. You could be the 8th. Visit thedreamraffle.com, use code JONAH, and take your shot at owning your own piece of Jerusalem. And hey, if you win, save me a seat on that porch. I'll bring the hummus. Your critics would argue that you characterize Jews and Israel perhaps as morally superior, beyond reproach. What would you say to them?
I don't think that. I think that when you are faithful to enlightenment, you are superior to the same country who is not faithful to enlightenment. Germany was superior at the time of the Weimar Republic, or today, than in the Nazi period. It's a fact. Israel is a country, it's a fact, where you have the inheritage of the Enlightenment, the Western philosophy of Enlightenment, and the cream of the Jewish books, who still remain alive, who are still at the flame in the heart of a lot of people. So the two makes a great country. What can I say? It's not superior by essence. I really think that the book of the Kings in the Torah is a great book. Best teachings of what is a democracy, how power must be limited, how kings are weak. There is a lot of teachings in the book of Kings and the book of Judges in the Bible, which are so relevant for the spirit of liberal democracy today. So a country who still have that in its structures, yeah, is a little special for sure.
So I want to get to talking about anti-Semitism, and I want to start by talking about the word itself. I tend to not use that word. I've actually spoken about on this show how I dislike the use of the word. I prefer to use the terms anti-Jew bigotry or anti-Jew hate or anti-Jew racism. Certainly when somebody says to me, you know, all you Zionists are Nazis and baby killers, it feels like bigotry to me. But you've said anti-Semitism is not a form of racism because the racist hates me for being different, but the anti-Semite hates me for being the same. And I'm wondering if you could break that idea down for us.
It's exactly what you said. A racist is disgusted by the fact that the woman or the man he has in front of him is obviously different. This makes him crazy, mad, full of anger and hate. An anti-Semite, what makes him mad, what makes him crazy, is that the one he has in front of him is the same. He cannot distinguish him. There is no difference. Or if there is a difference, it is so little that it is invisible. This is what makes the anti-Semite crazy. You know, it is not the visibility of the difference, it is the invisibility of the difference. Both are as horrible and must be combated with the same energy. There was a newspaper in France during the Nazi period, which was called Je suis partout, I am everywhere. And the I of I am everywhere were the Jews. The Jews were accused to be everywhere because they are so indifferent, so the same, so impossible to discern, to distinguish, that they were suspected to be everywhere. This is the real madness of anti-Semitism.
We also see, you know, just to push back on that a little, the Jews who are the most visibly recognizable are the ones who are most commonly attacked and met with violence.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They are, in France, for example, they are the most commonly attacked in the streets by the mob. Okay, they see a Jew with tefillin, with a kippah. It's an easy target. But I'm not sure that this is the core of the rage. If you really look at the calls for boycott, if you really look at the list, in these days there are some lists of Jews who have to be hated, boycotted, and so on. They are not religious Jews. They are Jews who appear on popular shows on the television, who sometimes don't appear, who are anchor men or anchor women. This really generates an incredible fire of hate. The fact that they are French, like the French, impossible to distinguish.
In 1982, you predicted that anti-Zionism would become this mass movement and become the face of anti-Semitism. That's a long time ago. What did you see then that you knew would end up, you know, paying the fruits today that it has?
I saw that all the other ways to be anti-Semite were impossible to sell to a big audience, if I dare say. In 1982, I saw that someone could not just come in the street and say, I hate Jews because they have a special blood. It was impossible to express. It was more and more difficult, even impossible, to say, I hate the Jews because they killed the Christ, Jesus Christ. Impossible. But to say, I hate Jews because they are associates, because they are partners with a state which we hate as itself, which is Israel, this was easy to do, easy to say, easy to sell. 43 years ago, I saw the first crowds gathering with good faith, with good consciousness, without the feeling of committing a crime, full gathering around this idea.
Going more into that, in your book, Genius of Judaism, you say the anti Semite is someone who has always managed to make it appear as if the hate he feels for the Jews is no more than the reflection of the love he feels for others. I don't hate Jews, I just love Jesus, who the Jews killed, or the Aryan race that they've defiled, or the Palestinian people that they have oppressed. It's so clear that technique that's being used. I mean, it's just so obvious when you look at it. How can you explain that people have not caught onto this writ large across the world?
I don't know. I don't know why, but it's a fact. In the history of mankind, hate is a big passion, as Sigmund Freud said in one of his last books. Hate is a more solid cement, a more solid concrete than love. Alas, that's a law of mankind. You build solid communities in general more with hate than with love, number one. But number two, for the hate to work and to be a solid concrete, it has to disguise in love. It has to take the mask of love. Why people don't admit these two laws, I don't know, because there is a will not to see, a will to be blind.
As you've pointed out in this conversation, and as you also discuss in the book, anti-Zionism is today sort of the acceptable vehicle, the only acceptable vehicle for anti-Semitism today. Whether you have the right to be anti-Zionist or not is not really the question. It seems that these folks have found a way around the, they say don't confuse criticism of the government with anti-Semitism, which sounds fair, but then the criticism will be Israel are genocidal baby killers, as if, that's the legitimate criticism. Is there a way out of this one? Like, how do we break that logic of, well, criticism is fair when the criticism is blood libel?
As you just expressed it, say it again and again. Of course, you have the right to criticize the government of Israel, as any government of any democracy, and as Israelis do it themselves. And this is the principle of a democracy, and Israel did that since its birth, since its inception. Israelis themselves criticize government, and then they made another one, and so on. To be anti-Zionist, to declare illegitimate the very principle which made Israel to exist, I'm sorry, but it's not authorized for me. This is a criminal thought, anti-Zionism. It is a call for crime. Of course, you can be against Donald Trump, or you can be against Emmanuel Macron. Okay, but nobody would ever think to break America into pieces, or to give parts of France to other. It's unthinkable for any country. And it is what anti-Zionism is. Anti-Zionism is, because I don't like the current government, I think that the state itself is illegitimate. To declare a state illegitimate means a clear call for its annihilation.
Yeah.
Those who are anti-Zionist, they are clearly calling for the eradication of a state, member of the community of nations, member of the UN. They are clearly calling for the eradication of numerous people, a majority of them being Jews, 80% being Jews, 20% being Arabs, by the way, and a few Druze. It's calling for the eradication of all of that. So it's calling for crime. You can't be anti-Zionist with innocence. No. It's so easy to see, the line is so easy to draw between the critic of a government and the blood libel. It's so evident. Genocide, for example, I spent my life studying genocide. I know what the genocide is, how it proceeds, what are the laws, what it smells. I know the genocide of the past, and I know the genocide of today. Rwanda, Darfur, I was there, I saw. And I can tell you, in Sudan, Darfur, or in Rwanda, you had no ceasefire. You had no corridors of evacuation. You had no warning before the killing with machete or whatever. You had no warning. So you can say that it is not a life for a Palestinian family to go from in the corridor of evacuation from north to south and then from south to north. I agree. I would not live that life for anything, but you cannot say it is a genocide. You can say it is a terrible life. You can say it is unfair. You can say that innocent people don't deserve to pay for the criminal government. Okay. But you cannot say that when you propose to a family to evacuate in a corridor protected by IDF, you cannot say that it is a genocide.
Yeah. As we discussed earlier, you sort of identified the way to break up the aura of a jihadist group. Like, there is a formula for that. There have been other vehicles of anti-Semitism that have been broken up and fallen out of favor over time, whether it's the racial idea or the Christ killer idea. How do we one day break this vehicle of anti-Zionism being a legitimate cause for anti-Semitism?
By having the world admitting and loving Israel, which is possible. Look at the Abraham agreements, Abraham Accords.
Right.
Really, 20 years ago, I would not have imagined such thing as the Abraham agreements. When I went in Israel, first time in my life, in the last day of the War of 6 Days in 1967, I would not have imagined Egypt first, Jordan, and the countries of Abraham agreements making peace. I would not have imagined the peace and the agreement turning into a beginning of real knowledge of each other, and after knowledge, love. So this is possible. History is not, this is my main philosophical disagreements with inheritors of the Jabotinsky Zionism. I am not pessimistic as they are. You know, the Israel right wing is grounded in the idea that whatever, there is no solution. Israel will be forever hated. Israel just has to become a fortress and to defend itself forever against a hate which will never stop. I agree with the first part. Israel has to be a fortress. Israel has to be strong. Israel has to have a strong army, and of course. But I don't agree with the second part. We can imagine, and I can imagine, and I long for a world who will admit at the end of the day that Israel is a chance for the area, that Israel is a lucky card for the world, that a world without Israel or an area without Israel would be in much worse state than with it.
All right, folks, at this point in the episode, we would usually go over to our 5 deep questions, which is just for folks in the Kehillah, our subscriber-only community, which you can join at beingjewishpodcast.com/community. Today's are going to be a little bit different. It's still going to be just for the Kehillah, but we're going to do 5 deep questions with Bernard-Henri Lévy about France and Ukraine. So if you want to hear that, make sure you hop on over. You wrote an article just last month about the war in Sudan, where you were on the ground speaking with a lot of the major players, seeing for yourself up close and personal what's going on there. I read the whole article. I've read what ChatGPT has said about it. I've read what the Sudanese military said about it through your article. It's still pretty difficult to wrap my head around, honestly. What would you say this war is really about?
It's a genocide, by the way. In Darfur, it is a genocide. It is a massive hunger, famine.
Yeah.
It is a racist war, a war between Sudanese of Arab origin against Sudanese of African origin, or perceived as such. Above all that, you have certainly some interests and some foreign powers who are pushing their agenda. I would like if it were only interest, because interest can be solved. It can be unmasked, and when it is unmasked, it is easy to stop. So there is a will to kill, a will of extermination, a will of annihilation of a whole population, which is at the core of the matter.
So it's not a power struggle, as you see it, between two factions. It's really a racist genocide from one side to the other.
I think so. The easy way to consider the story, but it is also the lazy way, is to send back to back the two camps. But it's too easy and too lazy, and it will not solve the problem. No, I don't think so.
Okay, my last question for you, and then we'll let you go. You said that October 7th opened a Pandora's box, freeing the most anti-Semitic people to spew their anti-Jewish hate. I think we'll have a hard time getting the devil back in the box, but we must fight it. How do we fight it, Bernard?
Doing what you do every week or so. Doing what I try to do myself, speaking loud and clear, and fighting. We have to, in front of anti-Semitism, the first duty is not to let it pass, not to admit it is a fatality, not to say, okay, we bow the head and we let it pass. No, we have to, each time we are witness of an act or a thought of anti-Semitism, it has to be denounced clearly. And one day the wave will turn. The Jews will have more friends than enemies. It's like a battle, it's like a war. It will never be won totally. Anti-Semitism will not be eradicated from the surface of the earth. No.
Sure.
But it can be contained. It can be shamed. It can be reduced to its disgusting face. You have a lot of decent people in America and in France who are ready to see this disgusting face of anti-Semitism if it is shown properly. And this is what has to be done.
Well, we're certainly in alignment on that. Bernard, thank you so much for your time. It's really been a pleasure. And please stay safe wherever you go and keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup à BHL for joining me from thousands of miles away. And if you all want to start calling me JSP, that's totally cool with me. And remember, if you want to hear today's 5 deep questions about France and Ukraine with Bernard-Henri Lévy and support my work here on the show, head over to beingjewishpodcast.com/community and sign up for the Kehillah. I'd love to have you. All right, I'll see y'all back here for the next episode magnifique of Being Jewish with me, Jonah Platt.